All right. Thank you for joining us. We are excited to be here live at Indianapolis Motor Speedway with the Iron Maiden herself, Simona de Silvestro. Welcome, Simona.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. And I told you I wouldn't touch on it, but I have to say you're really starting to earn that Iron Maiden title.
Yeah, I think since being around the speedway and crashing in 2011, having a fire again this year, it's definitely, I think, a nickname that is sticking pretty well right now.
Well, you're pretty intense anyway, so I think it fits.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So let's just dive right into it then. We'll have some questions coming in, but let's get started. Your insights coming out of qualifying this past weekend.
Well, qualifying was okay. We qualified 19th and had a little bit of an engine issue that wasn't quite what we wanted, but it's okay. 19 is okay because my teammate Ryan was there. So he started last year where he won, so maybe it's a good thing for Andretti Autosport.
Hey, we're hoping for it too. We're hoping for you. So, as many of us know, qualifications this year were a little different than what we were expecting, given some of the modifications. Can you talk a little bit about what had to go through your mind as that last minute change came through?
Yeah, I think definitely with the downforce we had to run and kind of going lower on the boost, it's it was kind of a little bit of a concern going down, but I think IndyCar kind of did the thing they had to do at this point, and that was the important part. And for sure for us, we had the car pretty well dialed in where we were, and we were pretty happy. So going down on that was a little bit tough because you had to refine and retune everything. But at the end of the day, it was the same for everybody, and that's where we were standing pretty much.
Great. So just talking a little bit about that shift over to this being the first oval circuit of the season, what goes through your mind and how do you prepare to make that changeover?
Well, the road courses, it's a little bit different. The good thing that I have is pretty much all my crew and my engineer and everybody is the same. Coming to the oval, Indy is always such a special place. There's it's crazy oval and really fast, and that's the biggest difference. It's like the speeds you're going, and this year it's a little bit new because everybody has new aero kits, so it's been a little bit trickier because whatever we knew was brand new now. So and we had to go through this, but luckily we had like a lot of practice, and I think we're pretty strong.
We know that they've been in testing and development for a while, and they're a pretty big change, correct?
Yeah, massive. Really big change because the old aero kit we kind of knew, especially because we had the car since 2012. So as a team you learn from it every year and you get better, and when something is brand new you have to go out there and test it and figure it out, and it's been a good challenge. That's what motorsports is all about, is really always pushing the boundaries, especially here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And that's a really important part of it.
Yeah. So that leads me into my next question, which is, where do you think the next big enhancements are going to come from?
It's going to be interesting. I think I'd be really for it to really push the engines a little bit more. I think right now we have 700 horsepower. It'd be cool to go back to the 900 and things like that. And we'll see if that happens. But I think it'd be great to go back to that.
Cool. Very cool. So we've got a question here around who's going to be on the radio with you this weekend.
So who's going to be on my radio? It's going to be Rob Edwards, who's been on my radio for the first two races, and on the ovals, we actually have two spotters. So I have Dwayne and Peter who are going to be spotting me out there. So pretty much three people for the whole race are going to be talking to me on the radio.
So speaking of your team, how do you start to build that rapport and that relationship with both your pit and your engineering and radio teams there?
Well, it's it's like a big family. Your engineer is really important because your communication. He has to kind of really understand what you like in the race car and how you like your race car, and that takes actually a lot of time. So we keep actually spending just a lot of time, even sometimes outside of the racetrack. Go to dinner and have the team together to work on those things, and I think it's the most important relationship you have as a race car driver, is you and your engineer.
Great. So kind of in that vein and getting prepared and so forth, how do you prepare physically, and how do you train to get ready for this?
well, how you get we train a lot as race
Yeah.
car drivers, so we physically we're
Yeah.
pretty ready. We go do weights, do a lot of cardio, because our heart rate is between like 160 to 190 like every time, and you have to be pretty fit for that.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of cycling, running, also a lot of neck training, but usually the best training is in the race car, which we don't really get that much, but yeah, it's an interesting sport where you can't really simulate what you feel in the race car. So you have to kind of try to do things that are going to be better. But like, for example, when I don't drive for like 2 months, I feel, the first time you get back in the car, it's pretty tough.
So I heard you say something interesting today. Simona, by the way, has been busy all day greeting and inspiring young minds as she's been at a couple schools. But I heard you talking a little bit about even like your heart rate. And I think it was a pretty amazing stat you said of where that sits throughout a race. Can you talk about that a little bit more? Yeah,
so exactly. It's like between like 160 to 190 for like almost 2 hours long. So it's pretty much like if somebody would be sprinting for a very long time. And it's really demanding. The cars are super demanding. Like, you don't have power steering, so it's really tough. And also on an oval like Indy, you going around it about 230 miles an hour, so it's really quick, and the decisions you have to take are split seconds. So I think that's the really tricky part about it.
So we had a question come in here around whether or not your strategy is already set for this weekend.
Not yet. We're still looking at the strategy, different scenarios, and usually in racing you kind of always look at so many strategies, and it's never the one that you look at. So you look at different ones, but usually, especially the 500 miles, it's such a long race, and so many things can happen. So you're gonna start for sure where we're starting. We want to try to move up a bit, and but at the end of the day, after the last pit stop is really where everything happens, and that's what you have to do.
Yeah, I think New Orleans is probably a good example of how, things like weather can really change up whatever plan you had going into it and really change the race. Although the weather looks like it's going to be pretty good here this weekend.
Yeah, I think it should be good here, but definitely on the oval, if it rains, we're not running, so that's a little bit trickier. But you never know what happens. On the oval, the car, if it gets a little cooler or a little hotter, that changes the car a lot. And that's something we always kind of look at when we're out there.
So we'll keep going through some of these questions, which are great coming in here. Are you nervous coming into this race, given some of the past accidents?
Not nervous. We know as a driver, you kind of know the dangers, right? Especially on an oval, you are driving super fast, like 240 miles an hour next to a concrete wall. So that there's a danger. But as a race car driver, you live for this. You live to be on the edge like this, and you enjoy when you're in the race car, and you never really think about the danger, because I think if you should be thinking about that, you shouldn't be doing this job. So it is part of it, and we all respect it for sure.
So I've got a question about that. I think there takes a certain amount of an adrenaline junkie, if you will, to do things like this. Are there other things you do to get that adrenaline out?
Well, it's funny. Yeah, I started mountain biking quite a lot, and I really enjoy that, even though it's a little bit dangerous. But I think you kind of always look for that, but nothing is going to give you like the kick of driving a race car for sure.
I think I've seen some of those photos on Instagram.
Yeah, I love it. Really enjoy it.
So who do you get inspiration from? Like which drivers inspire you?
Well, I've always been a big Michael Schumacher fan since I'm super small, because he was, I think, winning pretty much everything when I was growing up. And it's been, to win 7 world championships in Formula One is something pretty unbelievable, and I think that's pretty special.
Yeah. So we've got a question. Actually, it was more of a comment about Iron Maiden, of course, the band, but it brings up another question actually that I have about your pre-race prep. And are there any like musicians or songs or anything that helps you, or are you more like a quiet, introspective person on this?
Yeah, I'm usually pretty quiet. I actually don't mind being pretty busy before a race, where, if it's sponsor things, or like if I have my family, I kind of like talking to them. So it just kind of takes my mind off of it, of the racing part a little bit, because I'm a person that thinks a lot and overthinks a lot of things. So usually when I'm pretty busy before, it kind of helps when I'm having a good race, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing.
Very cool. So just some other questions for you that I had as we wait for some more to come in here. Talking a little bit about Michael Schumacher and F1 and so forth, what are the key differences between F1 and Indy for this audience?
Well, you know, F1, you know, the biggest difference I'm going to say is that it's, you know, driving on ovals and on road courses in the Indy cars, where Formula One only drives on road courses. That's, you know, from seeing, that's, I think, the biggest difference. The cars are a little bit different too, you know, as a team. In Formula One, each team builds their own car, so that's a little bit different. So you see much more disparity between the teams, where in IndyCar, cars are much closer, so the racing is much more competitive for sure.
Yeah. So I guess talking Formula One, we had a question come in here around your thoughts on Formula E.
Well, it's an interesting concept. You know, on one side, it is cool that a racing series is trying to push this, and you know, I've just driven the car, but just around the street, so I don't really know how it is to drive. But it's an interesting concept for sure. As a racer, you know, you kind of like the noise, and that's something that you know live for. But you know, I think the series has potential, especially if people kind of get involved and you know, start actually, you know, working on those issues that the electric car has right now.
Do you think in the future, if it, you know, gets a little bigger, it's something you'd be interested in, or you think you're straight? Yeah.
Well, it's difficult to say because, you know, as a driver, you know, the highest level you can get is IndyCars or Formula One, and I think if you're a driver, that's always the goals that you want to achieve. So those are pretty much priority right now, but you know, for sure, if I would have a chance to drive it, why not? But definitely, you know, IndyCars and F1 is where you want to be.
So we had a question come in around, you know, for those outside the U.S., can you talk a little bit more about why Indy 500 is, you know, so great and so fascinating?
Well, I think even for Europeans, you know, everybody knows about this race. It's such a historical race. You know, so much of motorsport and like automobile has happened here, you know, and to be part of a race like this where so many, you know, legends have raced here, it's a really special feeling, you know, and also driving these cars on a super speedway like here, it's tricky, you know, when from Europe, when you don't know, definitely not, then it's definitely, you know, kind of a lot of risk in it too, but it's really enjoyable when you have a really good car out there.
Yeah, you had a great statement this morning about how at first when they were talking Indy to you and you were thinking ovals, you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, but I think that's the European mentality about oval racing, you know, because the problem is that usually the highlights are always big crashes, which, you know, unfortunately are part of oval racing. But I think the safety, you know, has really made massive progress. When we look at the cars 20 years ago to now, it's definitely much better. But yeah, you know, I think the ovals, you really have to respect them. You know, it's not something you're gonna come in and be like, yeah, it's gonna be easy. It's definitely not. And the biggest problem with oval racing is that when you do a mistake, it usually hurts. And that's something that is really difficult as a driver sometimes to kind of get through.
So we've got questions flying in here. So we'll get to some more kind of in this vein for this week. There was one I saw somewhere in here around some of the changes. So far, we've seen the addition of 2 tire compounds on road courses and aero kits. Do you think they're going to keep borrowing from F1? Or do you think that that's a true statement?
No, actually, because IndyCar was doing that before. Actually, when IndyCars, when it was Champ Car, they had the 2 compounds way before, and Formula One copied that. So.
Well, there we go. So moving along here, you've acquired a few nicknames. Do you have a favorite and a least favorite? She's going to say Iron Maiden.
I like Iron Maiden, because I think that's a cool one. I think it's a little badass, so I like it. In the beginning, I had Swiss Miss, which is kind of, it's okay, you know, but it seems like every Swiss like female athlete that comes to America is called Swiss Miss. So it's a little, I don't know. I'd rather Iron Maiden.
They did add that missile to the end at some point.
When we crashed. So that so pretty much, my nicknames became better and better, but I think Iron Maiden has stuck now. Yeah.
We think Iron Maiden's pretty amazing.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So we'll keep that one.
We'll keep that one. So keep going through here. How does it feel to have a Swiss sponsor? Yeah,
well, it's funny. Yeah, that T is actually Swiss. And it's actually funny that actually the headquarters of T is in Schaffhausen, which is where I lived pretty much all last year. And it's great. I think especially when we're racing here in the US and being Swiss, I think it's a great combination. And it's also great to represent Switzerland a little bit together here in the US.
Yeah, we saw that you got to take a trip to TE location in Switzerland too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. I'd never been to one of those plants, and it was really interesting to see all the different things that TE does. And when you with a sponsor like this, it's always cool to see a little bit the different sides, and there's always interesting things going on.
Very cool. So can you talk about what goes on and happens during a pit stop?
Well,
there seems to be this fascination with what all gets done in a few seconds.
Yeah, well, there's a lot going on because you, as the driver, the most important part is to hit our marks, but also carry enough speed in. And especially in IndyCars, the pit stalls are super small, so it's really hard to get in. And on an oval, even more because the car is made to turn left. So pretty much when you turn left and then turn right, it doesn't want to turn right. It's not made for it. So makes it a little bit trickier. And the really quick pit stops, we do refueling and change 4 tires. And it's kind of funny, the pit stops are fast when you look at them. But when you're in the car and something kind of went wrong, you feel it like immediately. So you have that feeling of a good pit stop and bad pit stop immediately.
And I can imagine when you're in the car, it feels like it takes much longer than it really does.
Yeah, it does. It feels like it takes forever. And like I said, when somebody, is a little slow on one tire or something, you can feel that. Even if it's maybe just half a second, something, it feels like forever.
Well, half a second when it's a 6-second pit stop is a lot.
So hopefully we won't have that.
Through here. So we've got a couple questions here that are actually less race related. So we'll get into some of these. So not related to racing, but do you ski? Obviously, being from Switzerland, it's a...
Well, actually, I wasn't skiing. Well, I was skiing when I was little. And then when you start racing, skiing is a little bit dangerous. Everybody tells you not to do. But made some friends last winter, and they kind of have brought me back onto the slope. So I've been skiing quite a lot. I was snowboarding, and now I guess skiing is taking over.
So
but it is dangerous sometimes, especially if you're like a little bit of a speed junkie. So
you don't take it easy.
That's
no
the issue. It's always, they kind of always tell me to slow down, but then it's hard to do.
I get it. So we had another one here that I was gonna pull up for you. How do you drive when you're out on the road with the rest of us?
Actually, I drive pretty much. Most of my friends say that I drive like a grandma, to be honest. So I always get kind of yelled at because, I'll stop really when the light's getting orange, I'm stopping and stuff like that. So I'm pretty easy because I think I get, the driving part out on the racetrack.
But I did hear you say earlier today, one of your pet peeves of driving is...
I do not know how to parallel park. So I was really lucky that when I did my license test, because pretty much I flew home quickly to go do it, and you know how to drive, but parking is always this different thing, and nobody had taught me how to do a parallel parking, and pretty much in Switzerland that's all you do is parallel park, and I was really lucky that when I did my license they didn't ask me to do it because I'm pretty sure I would have failed, but lucky for me. But the problem is I still don't know how to do it right now.
There's plenty of time.
Oh, yes, good.
I heard that you said earlier that you've got one of my pet peeves, which is the slow cars in the left lane.
Yes.
I like to call them left lane squatters.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually a good analogy. So, if you are slow, please move to the right.
All right. Somebody says that they hear that you enjoy golfing too in your free time.
I do. Especially when I was more in the US, I used to play a lot, and I always try to get out there more, and I really enjoy it. It's a fun sport. It's really mental too, so I think kind of like that. Yeah.
Any favorite courses you've done?
Well, here in Indy, I would say the Brickyard is really cool because there's 2 holes inside the racetrack, which I don't think you've seen this anywhere, and that's a really cool place. And I really enjoy playing in Switzerland also because in the mountains, it's nice. Yeah.
So I think they're trying to get us back onto IndyCar here. Can you talk about the tools in the cars that are often talked about? How often are you changing the car while you're driving?
Well, quite a lot actually. We have a front bar and rear bar that we can use, and also a weight jacker. And on the ovals, you use that a lot because when you're behind 1 or 2 cars, the car gets really understeer. So you have to play with those tools a lot, and you can pretty much change it before every corner. So you can be really busy, especially if you have a car that you're struggling a little bit. You start really working on those a lot because sometimes you can get the car a little bit more back into the window.
Great. So, I've got to go to the obligatory TE. We've got those connectors and sensors in there. We talked to Blair a little bit yesterday too about data and sensors and how they help you. So can you talk a little bit to that too?
Yeah, so on the race car, we have all these sensors and things that are actually giving us information on a computer, and we can look at it, at different lines and stuff. And as a driver, you do use them. You look. Usually, it's more kind of the sensor from the throttle, the brakes, the speed, and the steering wheel, and things like that. That's as a driver, that's what you look more at, and because you always can pick out, you can compare it with your teammates. So that's really important. Then, but more for the engineer sometimes, because you as a driver, you will tell him, look, the car is doing this and this and this, and then he can exactly see, okay, what is kind of causing this and which area we have to work on. So the sensors are super important.
So how do you as a driver start to be able to interpret some of that information? Like, is it a process over time, or is there anything you can do?
It's a process over time. Because you get the more, you start in go-karts and there's no data. So and then you get into cars and there's more and more, and the higher you go, the more information there is. And it's just something you get used to, and it's a good thing to understand really quickly too, because it really helps you every time.
Well, I know that you've got some other appearances. We've got about 5 more minutes, so we'll do a couple more questions here. So what do you do during the month of May to blow? I know you said that you like to spend some time with family and you like some quiet time and to keep busy, but anything that about Indy that you just love to do while you're here?
It's hard during the month of May because we are really busy, so I don't know. If I find the time to go to the movies, for example, I'll totally do that, but I haven't had a chance yet. But my parents are here, so for sure, every evening is kind of dinner with them and spending time with them, because as a race car driver, you're so much on the road, and you're never really at one place. So when you have the people who are important to you with you, it's always nice to spend time with them.
So I asked Blair this question yesterday too. Outside of the actual driving, what is your favorite thing about the Indy 500? There's so much pomp and circumstance and tradition.
There is, I think there's a lot of cool things like the concerts, and I think the biggest thing is just the event, because it has been around for so long, and you have Carb Day on Friday, then you have the parade, and you don't get that really anymore anywhere, and I think that's something really cool.
Well, Blair said it was the yellow shirts directing traffic.
That is true. They are pretty aggressive out there, but it is flowing and everybody gets in and out. Okay, so I think that's really important. Great. Yeah, they're famous. Yellow shirts are famous here.
This is my first trip out here, and I have to say,
you've seen them.
I have seen them. I have encountered the yellow shirts. We had a whole conversation, our team, about how we should maybe do a Google Hangout with them on how they operate. So yes. So let's just do a quick look here through the last of the questions, since we've got a couple more minutes. obviously people are looking for some quick photos with you while you're out there. So
Yeah, for sure. You know, if you're at the track and see me, don't be afraid to stop me. We'll try to get pictures.
Safety concerns, I think we already talked about that. We talked about Iron Maiden, obviously, and music.
Finally listen to it.
Do you watch old IndyCar races at all on YouTube?
I do sometimes, yeah. Not all the time, but sometimes I do go watch, especially before a race. Like, you know, I'm sure I'm gonna end up watching last year's race when I get some time.
All right, and I think last one. Any last parting thoughts for this group?
Parting thoughts? I don't know. I'm maybe the wrong person to ask. I'm really boring, actually. I think you know, just the whole weekend is something really special, and there's so much going on, and just to really enjoy every aspect of it. And you know, actually, I think during the day it's pretty exhausting, but for sure downtown Indy is always fun too, because there's so many people here.
All right. Well, we are all going to be excited to cheer you on this weekend.
Perfect.
And that beautiful orange car.
T car is gonna be fast.
It is. It's fast and it's easy to see out there.
There you go.
Yes. So thank you for your time. Like I said, I know you're busy. You've got some other stuff to run to, and we appreciate you taking some time for your fans to answer their questions.
That was fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.